Hey, Team Legacy. My name is Wendy, and I'm an Emerald Ambassador for those of you who don't know me yet. But I wanted to talk today about habits. And maybe it's the question is, I want to create better habits, or, how did I end up with the habits that I already have? And so I'm actually sharing kind of these, I guess we can call them aha moments, from the book that we're doing in the group, and I would absolutely recommend that you get it. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is amazing, not just thinking plexus. This is thinking the way that you eat, the way that you exercise, the way that you work, all of the different parts of your life. We do things because they become habits. And so I'd gotten to this chapter 8, um, and I wanted to just share what I'm learning from this and what you might be able to take away from it. So let's start with this. One of the quotes that I really liked is that desire is the engine that drives behavior. Sounds pretty simple. I'm just going to break it down to how I saw that. What I want is going to drive me to do something to go get that, right? I can like something and be fine with just liking it. I don't need to go do it. But if I have a desire, if I want that thing, then I'm going to change my behavior. I'm going to do something. I'm going to get into an action for it. And so that's pretty much what I was taking from this chapter 8. And it's actually called Making Habits Irresistible. We have habits that are irresistible, and oftentimes they're the wrong ones. Could be smoking is a bad habit, just can't seem to break it. It's an addiction. Personally, I have an addiction for junk food, sugars, sweet foods in particular. Some people don't have that. They can walk past a bowl of, Reese's cups, or they can walk past an ice cream place and not have any desire to have it, whereas I have to fight that urge, that craving that I have. So I wanted to just kind of break this down. And I want you to think about this that, this chapter is talking a lot about dopamine. Dopamine is just one neurotransmitter, just one that's happening, that's going off and being triggered or signaled in your brain at any given or moment. It's just one. There are multiple things that are going on that make us crave or, want something bad enough to do something for it. But it doesn't start with that dopamine being released. It actually has to start with an experience. We give the experience or we receive the result, and then the dopamine is released. It's the reward that happens. So, for example, if I had never tasted an Oreo cookie, then maybe I wouldn't have been so addicted to them for a while. If I had never been to the beach, then wanting to go to the beach versus, I like the beach, it's a very different response. So we all have different things that basically causes that release of dopamine, or that, when it's basically that reward center is being triggered. We all have different things that trigger those for us. And so it's finding out what is it that causes that trigger, that dopamine to be released. So I'm going to look at the book occasionally because I highlighted some things that I wanted to make sure I talked about. But to really understand about this dopamine release, the easiest way or the easiest place to do it is talk about food. And, when the hunters and gatherers were having to feed their families, there was a high sense or a high need for sweets, salts, and fats. Um, they're high in carbs, high in energy, and so there would be a need to go find those. And they would eat a lot of it when they could. It wasn't around all year. But they had a desire to survive, so they would get up and act. They would go and do that. Okay, fast forward 2021. Well, we could actually go 1970s when fast food restaurants came around. If you never stopped at a fast food restaurant, you never introduced it into your diet, you wouldn't know what you were missing. You wouldn't have a craving. But how did they get us to want to go? Well, they marketed that. It was bright, it was exciting, it was colorful, it had characters, it was fun. It was so much excitement around the marketing that the children would say, well, I need to go there. I need to go there. I can remember my daughter, my youngest daughter, Allie, she might have been 4 or 5. And we didn't eat at Wendy's, even though, it was something that I might have stopped at if I had to. But we didn't eat at Wendy's. And she would say to us, she said one time, she says, Mom, we should go to Wendy's. And I said, you've never been. Why do you want to go to Wendy's? And she said, because their burgers are hot and juicy. That came right out of the marketing. So the way that it was presented to her on the TV drove her to want to go enough that her action was, I'll go and tell my mom, because that's how I would go. The food industry, they use something called a bliss point, and that is the level where, so I'm going to make sure I write this down. Oh, it's the level of most satisfying sweetness, crunch or texture, the saltiness. It is the level that you can't resist. And so there are development teams for food industry companies that will figure out exactly what is the level of sweetness that is good. Too much, and we don't want it. We'll say, "Ooh, that's too sweet. I can only eat a little bit." Can you think of something in your life that, maybe it's fudge was for me, that it's so rich that just a little bit can satisfy me pretty easily? Well, a food developing company or the industry doesn't want me to stop at just a little bit. They want me to continue to want it and buy more and more. That's where their profit's going to be. So they have to develop a bliss point. The other thing about that is we have become so motivated by all of the different senses. So imagine you see a picture of a carnival or a fair or the boardwalk. If you've never been, you've never heard it, you've never smelled all of the smells of the food, maybe you've never felt what it was like to be there, but you just see the picture, it doesn't create that craving, that absolute need to go. But once you've had the experience, you see the picture, and now you can all of a sudden think of the smell. You remember what it smelled like. You remembered the sounds. You remembered that excitement. So the experience happens, the reward happens, your brain accepts it, the dopamine is released for your reward, and now it becomes a future craving when you see or think about that place or that thing. I imagine right now you could think of a vacation that you've taken that brings a smile to your face, or just that warm feeling of, oh, yeah, when I went to this place, and it makes you feel good and makes you want to experience that again. So that's part of a bliss point. With food, they want to make sure that they include all of the different things. So the texture, the crunch. If it's too hard, you're not going to want to eat it. If it's too soft, we're going to think, oh, that's soggy or that's stale. It has to be perfect. So the crunch, it could be a crunch and a smoothness together. So it has to be exciting once you put it in your mouth and eat it or drink it. Oftentimes that's why people really go for sodas, because it's got the fizz, it's got the bubbles, it's exciting, it's got a lot of flavor from the the fake sugars, and flavor from the syrups and all the different things. So we're drawn to the multi-sensory foods and drinks, and we want our experience to be the same. Something that was mentioned was that whole or natural foods, they don't produce the different sensations that we're wanting. So the 17th bite of kale or lettuce just doesn't do anything new. We can eat, think about if you're eating just like mixed nuts. I can continue to eat a bunch of those because there's a little bit of a different flavor, a little texture, a little bit of crunch, and so I'm not going to get bored with that. It also, if it's got salt, it's going to make me thirsty, so now I'm going back and forth between choosing to drink something and eating something. But if it's just one flavor, or let's say it's meat, if all you do is eat a chicken breast or a steak, you can get to a certain part of that meal of just that one meat, and your body will send you the signals. You're full. Now, why would I be full after eating a high protein meal like just chicken or just steak? Well, it's because the signals and the hormones in my body are sending the signal saying, you've had enough nutrition, you're done, you're full. You've had enough nutrition. When we eat things that are so exciting, they're processed, different textures, different flavors, all of those things, our brain is receiving a signal that we are going to have nutrition. But those things are usually empty of calories, right? They're empty. They're called empty calories because they have no nutrition. So the nutrition signal is not sent, meaning you can continue eating because you're not feeling full. So you can eat an entire bag of chips and salsa, love it, but yet you're still hungry and then can go eat an entire meal. But if we started with eating a chicken breast or something really high in protein, our body's going to feel full because the nutrients are there. So that's just talking about, you know, what the food companies, the food industry, they do to have more profit. They want us to go out and spend more. So that's just one kind of a habit. I have a habit of, I walk into the kitchen and I see my pantry. Just mindlessly, I go over and open up the pantry door and look in as if I'm hungry, but I'm really not. So, working from home, that kind of, we have to figure out, how do I break that habit of just thinking kitchen means eating? So that's something that we want to consider. People don't crave what bores them. So that kind of goes back to the kale. If you're just eating kale, it gets boring. Same sensation over and over and over, so you don't really crave it. All right. So that's just the piece about how we get people to come back and excite your brain for more of that thing. And food was the easiest way, to really explain that. Think about the world around you, especially like for the kids, because they're so exposed to stimulation now, whether it's video games, social media, even TV. It used to be, when I was a kid, the pictures didn't have to be moving quite as fast. Now everything is so fast. It's just images constantly coming at you. But what it's doing is just really stimulating all of the senses and the brain, which, again, dopamine is dropped when it's something exciting, right? So maybe needing to figure out, well, how can I stimulate that part of my brain so that I want to do the habits or create the habits that are going to be very beneficial for me. Okay. So a habit is where, you've created this, you've received this experience or this result, and you want to repeat that. Your brain is sending you signals saying, we like that feeling, we need to repeat it. And we would like you to repeat it as much as you can. And that creates that craving. And sometimes it's bad enough, we're going to go ahead and call it an addiction. Our phones, being on our phone, there is, my phone is off right now. Okay, so whoops, just turned on. When the screen is off, it doesn't give me any kind of feedback. It's just a black screen. But lifting my phone, it turns it on, and there is a release of dopamine that I don't even realize is happening, because I'm expecting something good. I'm expecting to see a message. Somebody texted me, somebody liked something, I'm getting a notification. That can be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing. Because it's been good enough times, it has become a habit. I see my phone, I pick it up. I don't know if you have that same habit. So how could I stop myself from receiving that dopamine release? Is to put my phone somewhere while I'm working that I can't see it. So that I'm not driven to pick it up every couple of minutes to see if anybody's texted me. Our kids, and us included, we have the phone next to our bed, and you see the light come on because a message has popped up, and it wakes you up enough to go, oh, well, I need to see what that is. So just an idea if we want to break a habit of being on the phone all the time. Without a desire, an action will stop, right? So if desire is the engine that drives our behavior, when the desire is gone, we're going to stop acting on that. And let's see if that's, just make sure before I jump ahead. I want to create a desire for something that would move me to act. So let's talk about business. Let's talk about taking our Plexus products. We'll start there. What makes us want to be consistent and take our Plexus products? We tried them. So before we took them, we had no idea, there was no desire. What made us curious? Well, for me, let's go back in my story. For me, I was told, so this is a negative, this is aversion. I was told, you are borderline type 2 diabetic. We're going to put you on medication. And I didn't want medication. So that's the aversion. That's the thing I did not want. So when Angela came to me and said, hey, I have something that might work for you, it could level your blood sugars and you wouldn't have to really work hard to change your eating habits. That sounded good. It created a desire or a thought in my mind. That sounds good. I think I would be willing to do that. It was also because I wanted to help her. So I had a desire to help my friend. So see where that is? The desire came before my experience on this one. Once I started drinking the pink drink, I had multiple fabulous experiences. The taste was wonderful to me. Not everybody loves the taste, but me started with the taste. I really liked the taste. I experienced energy. I experienced a clearer thinking. I experienced craving control. I experienced a mood enhancement. So all of these experiences led to my desire to want those things to keep coming. And thank goodness it was a healthy desire. It was a healthy thing, right? So that made it consistent for me. Well, how did I get that? I had to lean on Angela's experience first. So when you're talking to people about Plexus products, you're having to either borrow somebody else's experience, and because of the picture that you have in your mind of what that's going to feel like, what that's going to look like, what it might sound like, that's going to make you want to try the products or stay on them. So when you're posting, when you're talking to people, you are literally creating a vision for someone else of what's possible. Okay, so that's important. And that comes back to people going, I don't want to tell anybody about this until I know how it works for me. It's because they haven't had the experience to have the desire to continue. They don't know if they want to continue. So we want to give them that experience and let them then move on from there, saying, okay, now you have a desire to have this again. The reward comes when you've been taking it. Now, why is that important? One of the things that researchers have found that in the brain, there is more space, more area of the brain, and the neural pathways are given to your want, not the result. We think about, oh, for me, love the taste of ice cream. So if I go get the ice cream, once I start eating it, I get this drop of dopamine and I feel better, right? But actually, it's the anticipation. They said that the larger parts of your brain are given to anticipation, the want, which makes us go out and do. There are only little spots or little points of reward centers in the brain, kind of like islands. They said they're just all over the brain. How cool is that? You get that reward and the dopamine drops, but you get as much, if not more, from the anticipation. I thought that was really interesting. So when I start thinking about my trip to Hawaii, or this year we're going to Mexico, and I've been to Mexico, I have that experience, so I already feel excited about it. If I'd never been, maybe I'd be nervous or cautious, but because I've experienced it already, I can't wait to go. I've watched things, I've seen things, I've heard things, I've read things, so I've created that excitement for myself. The dopamine comes when I think about my trip. Once I get there, it could be raining the whole time. It could be busy and I don't get to do the things that my brain expects. So the dopamine release might not even be as great. Have you ever thought that, especially since Plexus, where you go, oh, if I could just have a piece of chocolate cake, and you go out of your way to make the cake or to find it or to buy it, whatever, you're all excited about it, and then you put it in your mouth and you go, that doesn't taste as good as I remember. I've had that happen so many times. And so that's a really good example of, we've created this desire, we have this memory or this thought, it's the anticipation that is even more fulfilling than the actual result. So interestingly enough. All right, So then let's go even a little bit step forward with Plexus and the products. And now someone, many of you like myself said, I really don't want to do the business. I'm not going to do I don't want to even do this at all. I'm just going to take the products. And we take the products, we're feeling really good, and someone asks, what are you doing? You look amazing. Or why do you have so much energy? And we're willing, because they came to us and we're pretty, we feel pretty good and confident about saying, oh, I'm drinking this pink drink. That's what makes me feel good. And they go, huh, well, I'd like to try that. Okay, there's no rejection. I'm a salesperson. They asked me for it. I give them the sample. They love the taste. They feel better. They get on it for a month and they're feeling amazing. They're losing weight. Their blood sugar numbers are better. And they come back and they go, that was amazing. Okay, so two things happen. One, I did something to help people. And in my yellow personality, I love doing that. So I've done something to help someone. So that's the first experience. And I'm like, ooh, I liked that. I want to experience that again. So now I have a desire to go out and share because I liked the reward that I had. The anticipation. I talk to someone, they're getting excited, and I'm excited to see them feel better. That's my reward. I'm already motivated to share more. And then the 15th of the month, and I get a check. I get a check, a small amount of money. Even if it was $10, $15, it was still a reward. It was like the first taste of something sweet for me. And I go, oh, I wouldn't mind having more of that. Right? So people who say they don't want to share, it's because they don't know the experience. They don't have that motivation, that dopamine release to make them go and talk to anybody. So again, it's our job to give the vision, to explain what's possible and say, well, I really need to tell you that there is an opportunity in this. You may not want to do it, but eventually you might find that you would like to have, be able to help somebody. So if we explain it in a way that we're not dumping a business on them, they might be a little more open to it. I want to show you a chart. So if you can see, there are four lines, and they're kind of wavy, and it's called the dopamine spike. So the first one is where we start. This one I think is huge for people with kids, because imagine children that are addicted to sweets would not be addicted to sweets if they never got that first reward. They don't know that they want sweets. So here it is, it's a flat line. There's no craving, there's no desire, and then all of a sudden they get a reward because they had that first sip of your soda, or they had the first Oreo, they had their first birthday cake and it was just rich with sugar, and it goes spike. That dopamine spike says you want more of this, and they're going to look for it, and they're going to do things that you don't want them to do, climbing up on counters to get the reward that they want. So that's the first thing. We all start at letter A. Letter B is, okay, we have the the dopamine spike because we already know it's good. So let's say, for example, in business, I'm excited. I think I'm going to call this person, or I'm going to message this person. I get the dopamine spike in my motivation, and then they don't respond. They ghost me. Nothing happens. It just doesn't go anywhere. Like, okay, I don't know what happened there, but nothing happens. The next one is that I'm motivated. So this is the third line. I'm motivated. I get that spike. I'm excited to do it. And then I get a negative result. The person says, ew, no, and it's a pyramid scheme, or what are you doing? Why would you call me? So I'm excited, and then I get a dopamine, it's almost like a depression of, that's not what I wanted. It's kind of an aversion training. So what does that mean? Somebody who hasn't built the belief on their own yet, they're excited to share, and the first thing they get is a no, or someone telling them that they're in the wrong business or that it's wrong. It's almost like a depression, and it pushes them back, and they go, oh, I don't want to feel that way again. You might know what that feels like yourself, or you might have people who go, well, I don't want to feel that way. And then the last one is, and this one we see really kind of often, once you've built up your belief, you trust the products, you trust your upline, you trust the company, you're starting to trust yourself. You're motivated. You get your dopamine spike, and then nothing happens. So you get a little dip of, oh, that didn't feel very good. But you know, the person was busy, and all of a sudden they come back maybe a week later and they say, hey, I'm sorry I missed that. I am interested. And we get that spike again, and the brain goes, you see, that was good. We want to do that again. So we get really excited. So we need to learn how to manage that. Um, we need to learn how to manage that in the business that we're in. We are salespeople, whether you want to be or not. If you've ever had to convince the dog to get in the car, or the kids to get their shoes on, or to do their homework, you are selling something. If you've ever shared your favorite restaurant, the person who does your hair, your nails, you are selling something. We are salespeople. We have to sell ourselves to make friends. We have to sell. It's just what we do. And so we just have to own that and accept it. And then we want to create some habits by understanding what's going on. When we get excited and the dopamine drops and they don't respond, or we get a negative like, ooh, no, don't ever call me again, we have to realize that, one, that's not necessarily personal against me, and it's only one person in the millions that I have access to because of social media, that kind of a thing. And we just need to feed the desire. The more we listen to testimonials, the more we read testimonials and see what the products do for people, and we see the lifestyle that other people are living because they didn't quit, that's where we get our motivation. That's where we get our desire to continue. So just, I want you to keep that in mind. Doing a dream board. You may have never done one. For me, I've done dream boards before, and they weren't quite as, for me personally and my personality, they weren't quite as successful in driving me to do things because I'm not reward motivated. I'm more of the journey motivated, or it's about other people for me. So, for example, I could put a picture of a, of a Lexus. I have my Lexus, but I could have put the picture of a Lexus on a dream board and I would see it, but because I'd never driven one and I really didn't know the value of it, and I like Jeeps, I like trucks, the Lexus wasn't this drive for me. Now, maybe if I didn't have a car and I was having to pay to use public transportation or walk, I might have been driven a little bit more. You know what I mean? So when you consider making a dream board, you want to make sure that you are really touching deep into your desires. And that's why we hear them say, you've got to have a why. Why are you doing this business? It should be a why that makes you cry. I'm not really an emotional person, so I don't have a why that makes me cry necessarily, but I have to have a why that makes me say, all right, I'm going to do it. I have to have a desire. So what excites me? It excites me to see other people succeed. So if I can be so excited to announce people that are ranking up or signing up their first ambassador or getting their first customer, that's exciting to me. And if that's exciting for you, then that's where your dreams, that's going to be your desire, your motivation. If you love seeing people make health changes, that's going to be where your motivation is going to come from. If you're more about, I just want to have a house, I want my kids in a private school, or I want to be able to quit work, what would that look like to you? You can put a picture of a beach house or a mountain house, a mountain home on a dream board, but if that's not really what you want, it's not going to be your desire, or it's not going to drive your actions. So your desire is the engine to your actions. You need to figure out what you desire most and how to get there with the actions. And that's what we do, is support each other with teaching actions and supporting actions, but we can't give you the desire. You have to figure it out that for yourself. So, long time talking about chapter 8. It was wonderful, and I hope you got something from this, and I love you guys. We'll talk to you again.